the only show that is three dimensions away from Gladiator 2 being called Gladiator Returns. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Gladiator 2, released in 2024. Gladiator 2 is directed by Ridley Scott once again and is written by Peter Craig and David Scappa and stars Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, Fred Herringer, Connie Nelson, and Denzel Washington. The movie is essentially a sequel to Gladiator 1. And essentially, this time after the end of when Russell Crowe kills Walking Phoenix and everything, Connie Nelson, her and her son flee the city and everything as the city is about to get sacked, overturned as the king is dead. And so basically, she goes in hiding, and then of course the new emperors want to kill the son because he's a legitimate heir to the throne. So then of course she sends him away and everything. And he becomes like kind of like Russell Crowe, he becomes like a warrior and everything. And then of course they go looking for him. Of course he's in a fight between the old empire and the new empire, and they're clashing. And the old empire gets wiped out by the new empire, and then they throw him into slavery, and he becomes a gladiator. And then Denzel sees how potential in him, and so he basically trains him to be a gladiator so he can use him to overthrow the government and become the new emperor. The plot sounds great on paper. Like I will say, I think honestly on paper this movie really sounds great. I think where I had issues with is just it's a copy paste of the first movie. I feel like a lot of scenes in the first movie, if you've seen the first movie, you've seen Gladiator 2, essentially. The only difference is the ending's different, and there's a few minor things they change. Everything else is the exact same. I'm like, it's the same outcome and everything. The only difference is I'm sitting there watching this going, I do like Denzel in this movie. I think it's a really great idea to have a villain who essentially is playing both sides of the table, and I thought that was really great. And I like that Pedro Pascal because I think he's the hardest working man in Hollywood. He's in everything. I think honestly, when I watched this movie, I thought Pedro Pascal was really great. He's a general who our hero protagonist played by Paul Mescal, he sees him as Lucius sees him as like the villain when really he's not the villain. He's like, look, he hates going to war. He hates killing other people. He's like, he said, and he even says like in the movie, he goes, Rome. He says you need to feed her. You need to feed her people. He says they need to eat, and he goes, they can eat war. And then one of the emperors says they can eat war. And I mean, and I think really I like Pedro Pascal. He's not a bad person. In fact, he's planning on overthrowing the emperor so he can make Rome a free city again. And I think that's one thing I like about the ideas of this movie. My issue is it just feels like it's bland. It just doesn't feel. It feels like this should have done another polish on the script because most of the movie is just people talking. They're talking about war strategies and everything, but they never do anything. And it's like that really irks me. In fact, at the end there's supposed to be this big battle, and it stops so these two people could battle, and I'm just thinking, well, I don't hate that usually, but it's like when there's no real battle besides the beginning, there's nothing that happens in the movie to where you're like, well, at least give us a battle. I mean, you're already saving the budget. I mean, you might as well just let the budget fly at this point. I mean, like even the matches, of course, the gladiator matches, I should be like jumping up and down joy. There was a couple of matches I do like in the movie. Like I really like the match with the sharks where they're in the sea. I thought that was a great match. I like that when people fall in the sharks would eat them. I thought that was great, and I thought the rhino fight was great. But it just feels like most of the movie just feels like my biggest issue with the first Gladiator because I did not like the first Gladiator. I thought the first Gladiator movie was just the same thing. It was just boring, where it was just basically like they had a whole war thing and then it focused on the matches were like sideline stories, and then instead like I wanted the matches to be the main story. And I felt like that was really disappointed me and everything. And this one did the same thing where it's like the sideline that, and I'm like I kind of wanted gladiator matches, but and I watched this movie one, and I was really wanting to love this movie, and I was sitting there watching it and everything. I smiled and everything because I owned the first one on 4K, didn't like it. Then I bought the second one on 4K and didn't like it either. So it's like I'm 0-2 for so far, And yeah, maybe if they make a third one, I'll like the third one. But I watched it, and I'm just like I want to love this movie, but it's like I don't like. I love medieval fantasy swords and sandal type movies. Like I love Troy 300. You know, I'm a big fan of those type of movies, but I just don't understand why I don't like this movie. I mean, I just don't understand. I'm sitting there watching. I don't understand why I like the first Gladiator movie, but watching this one, I understand why I don't like this one, because it's like it's just a copy paste of the first movie. I mean, it's not something different. I was hoping to be different, and I feel like that's a lot really problem. That's really a lot of problems with modern day Hollywood is they just remake the same garbage over, and it's like they have a great movie. Like even though I didn't like Gladiator one, I know a lot of people loved it, won Oscars and everything. I know a lot of people love the first Gladiator movie, and I know a lot of people did not like Gladiator 2, and apparently, yeah, and I did not like it either. I think honestly, you take a great movie like Gladiator 1 and then just remake it to the same garbage as Gladiator 2, and it's like you're just basically bastardizing the first movie. I mean, seriously, I really enjoy, movies. I enjoy the Scream movies. Love Scream 1, love Scream 2, don't like Scream 3. Like I really like Scream 4. Scream 5 is just a copy paste of the first movie, and that made me irks me. And I think honestly, if I could see someone like that loves Gladiator 1 walking into Gladiator 2 being disappointed because it's the same movie. And I'm like, you know what? I just feel like, why can't we just make original movies? It's like, look, make a sequel that's original. You don't have to really copy paste. And it feels like ever since The Force Awakens, that's every movie that gets a legacy sequel. It's just a copy paste movie of the first movie. It's like, why can't we ever just get a sequel that is different and unique? I mean, like, you at least with Avatar 2 and yet Avatar, they were two different movies that weren't the exact same movie. It wasn't like another Marine gets thrown in there and turned into an Avatar. It was something different. And I like that. Top Gun Maverick was something different. It wasn't the exact same movie where, and also they're on a kick for lately where they take the legacy characters and make them the supporting characters and then put new characters for the next generation. I was like, why do we have to do that? Like, a lot of people are going to these movies expecting the legacy characters to be the leads and the supporting characters to be the new actors. And then basically, and that's like, I honestly don't understand that. And at least with this one, I mean, there really is no legacy characters besides Connie Nelson. And I mean, she wasn't a big character in the first movie, so it's really her same role. I would say she probably even has about the same amount of screen time in this one as she does the first one. I will say though, this one I'm just like watch this going, maybe I'll like it, maybe because it's gonna be different. And I watch it and I'm thinking, because this is Ridley Scott, the director of the first Gladiator movie, and I love some of his movies. I love his Alien movies. I like Prometheus. I love Prometheus, and I love, Alien. I love Alien and everything else. And there's another movie he made that I really love that I forgot he made that I'm forgetting, but I know he's made a lot of great movies that I love. And so I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my God, Ridley Scott, this is gonna be like this Gladiator 2. Oh wow. I'm like, and instead of watching, I'm like, this is just awful. And I know honestly some people have been give him a kick lately saying he's been making bad movies. I don't think he's been making bad movies. I just think when you get older, I think honestly you just start giving a shit, and so it's like whenever instead you just start listening to the studios and rather than just trying to be your own creative vision, and I think that really sucks because I really like Ridley Scott, and I think honestly, I really think he should retire because I think honestly, he's just, I understand he likes doing these, and I understand that, but I think honestly, watching this kind of made bum me out. And I really like that. I do like some of the fights in the movie. There are some fights in the movie that I like, but the story, like at the end, I do like at the end when there was no like. I mean, if this would have been the whole movie would have been battles, and at the end there is no battle, and it's just two like him and Denzel. Because I do like Denzel in the movie. I think Denzel is really great in the movie because he's basically the Littlefinger. Littlefinger was a character in Game of Thrones who played everybody and tried to play them like a fiddle to start a war between families. He's basically that. Denzel is like someone who's trying to manipulate everybody, and I like that they had that character who basically just like goes around whispering in people's ears and everything. I thought that was really great that Denzel played that role. I just did not like that, and I kind of wish that there would have been a big battle at the end. I also kind of wish that Denzel. I like that Denzel, you know, like he played the whole entire movie, like he played, and he also like how he plays that role, and I also like at the end how he kills like Paul Mescal's mother. Spoilers, you haven't seen the movie. And I like how Pedro Pascal, who's trying to like overthrow the government, when Denzel finds out, he basically has him arrested, and they and throws him into a pit where he puts Lucius into a thing where he has to kill him, has no choice to kill him. And I like how Lucius refuses it. It kind of turns the government into because people loved him as a general and everything, and I thought that was really ideal. I like the idea of like how Denzel's trying to make the government fall and then he turns the two king emperors against each other because one's like a man child and the other one is kind of like a more subtle leader. And then the one he tells the man child, "You should kill your brother," and then he tries to kill him, and then of course, Denzel just comes on and stabs him in the throat, and cuts his head off, and makes the man child the king. And it kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones, where it's like the Joffrey situation and he's just manipulating the man child so eventually he just kills the man child so he can become emperor. And I thought that's great because he said he can use every aspect, and then he even turns his like the council against the king and saying, "Oh, like he said, he's crazy. He put his monkey as a second in command. I say we vote me as the king emperor." And they're like, "Yep, yep." And I thought that was so great and everything, and how he just brings the head and sets at the head there, and he's like, "Wait, this can stop the first riot, the second riot when we bring him his head," and I thought that was really great. And then he tries to execute the mom and everything, so that way you create a bigger riot to overthrow him, and then he'll kill him. And I thought that was really great. Those are some great idea political strategies. I just wish, like, the movie would have been better in my eyes. I know that there was originally a lot of scripts. This movie's been years and years of scripts, and I know one script was even Russell Crowe being resurrected through berries, and then one was him fighting. One was him just like dying. Dying in hell and trying to get back from hell. And I know that I'm saying like those are some wild ideas, but this one, I mean, I understand that Russell Crowe's not in the movie, but it just feels like when you make a movie, it's like they're like trying to make a sequel to Braveheart without Mel Gibson. It would not work. But I enjoyed some parts of the movie, but I just did not think this was a very underwhelming movie for me. And I wish it would have been better, but unfortunately it wasn't. If I had to give this movie a score, I'm going to give it a D. Thank you so much.
Sharpton for president, y'all. I'm outie.
Jesse Jackson for VP.